Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for this invitation and the kind presentation of my profile. As you said, yeah, I'm a project director or coordinator of FENTEC project, and I work for Atos. And I would like to do very quick presentation of the work we've been doing so far in the last 3 years. Basically, FENTEC, the reason is here is like a sister project of PRIViLEDGE. It's the same year and a very related topic. I will try to present a very brief overview of what is functional encryption, which is the core of FENTEC. What is FENTEC in a nutshell, with the things we've been doing, and mainly the three use cases where we showcase our technology and our developments. And then some kind of like open questions about what could be the role of functional encryption in the era of COVID. And yeah, how can we help with this current situation? So without further ado, what's functional encryption? So basically, functional encryption is an alternative to traditional encryption. In traditional encryption, you got an entire message either accessible or blocked, and functional encryptions just try to modulate this access to information, meaning that people with different keys may access different parts of the information. Obviously, there's a master key, there's a controller of all the information, that's the owner, but you can modulate access to this information. So for someone like me, which I'm just a humble coordinator, I'm not, a cryptographer or anything like that. A very simple example is when you are with your colleagues visiting, a project, and you got a few hours left, and you would need to leave your luggage. So you can go to the hotel and ask for the locker room, and basically they'll give you one single key, and then you got all the luggage. So either you got access or you have no access to the locker room. On the other hand, you can go to one of these modern, train stations and airports, and then you got all these compartments when you can leave your luggage and you can only access your luggage. So in a very simple way, that's rough image of what functional encryption could be. More down to earth or more applied examples. So for example, you could be handling two email conversation or just an email conversation. Everything is encrypted. So you cannot access the information unless you got the key. But with functional encryption, you will be able to apply some filtering without decrypting the information. The same, for example, for economic financial transactions. You may maintain your privacy, but there could be some, kind of high authority in this kind of, this picture of the investigator, that they should be able to access your data because there are suspicions of fraud, for example. But do they really need to see all your transactions? No, maybe they can apply some queries over encrypted data, and in this case with some policies or some conditions, just see the movements that are under investigation. Same nowadays, HR, all the privacy issues, lots of people send information. Let's say you send your CV to a company, but there are some information that does not need to be disclosed unless you are, really opting for this position. So with functional encryption, you could just basically filter a lot of CVs that are not apt for this position, and you don't need to see anything else. So basically, that's the mission of FENTEC. We want to work, develop functional encryption. Functional encryption is not new, but definitely is something that needs development. And we just try to put together companies, universities, researchers and IT specialists to work in this area. So that's a quick overview of the consortium. We got 10 partners, basically all across Europe, and we've got a mixture of universities. We've got ENS in France, University of Edinburgh, KU Leuven, Helsinki, Flensburg, plus some private companies, Atos, Wallex, Kudelski, and XLab. So that give us a mixture of research and also applied research. So when we speak about the goals, obviously we want to develop functional encryption, but we need to put it down to at least three different levels. The first one is the cryptography itself. We need to develop algorithms and we need to support it with hardware because obviously it's more complex than conventional encryption, and it's really heavy on processes, and it requires some support sometimes. From the basics, we need to develop APIs and libraries so people can use it and it's accessible, and more work can be done on top of it. And then also we need to showcase that is useful and can be used and it's applied to, and thus we've got three use cases. Obviously, we need to compare this to the current state of the art. And when it comes to cryptography in general, not just functional encryption, it needs to be efficient, it needs to be secure, and it needs to be versatile. If it's less secure than conventional encryption, it won't be used. If it takes ages to operate, it won't be used. And if it can be only used in very restricted scenarios, it won't be used. So those are, we need to find a balance between those three items to develop a decent product. So the first one is the algorithms themselves. We've been doing work for new schemes that are applied to our use cases, more general schemes that can be used more widely. And also we need to focus about security, as we said. So quantum technology has been taken into account and how this could affect in the future to the security of our solutions. And also because of this, you can access data from different ways. There's also risk of information leakage. And this has to be taken into account when designing the algorithms. The consortium is very prolific, publishing papers. You can visit the webpage. There's plenty of them. And at the moment, there are plus 30 papers published in one of the most, basically the most well-known venues regarding cryptography. The second part of the very basics, which is the cryptography itself, is hardware support. There's been three scenarios depending on the involvement of the involvement of hardware in assisting the cryptographic processes. They've been doing some low-level work under these three trusted scenarios from where the trust shifts from one side to the other. Yeah, this is a good way to boost the process and make it more effective and quicker. The second level is once we got the cryptography, the grounds is providing these libraries where people can grab the APIs and use them for their own applications. At the moment, we've got three libraries. The main ones are in Golang and C. So anyone can go to GitHub and grab it. And on top of that, we also been doing some showcases, some examples, so people can better understand how it works and how it can be used. And currently, it's also under development. There is like a wiki with tutorials and videos, and that will also help to distribute the knowledge about functional encryption and help people to get involved with it and develop it even further. And obviously, the higher level will be applying these algorithms, applying these libraries into specific use cases to show that it works and it could be applied now and even more in the near future. So we got three. One is about a digital coin. The second one is about local decision making in IoT devices. And the last one is about how we can query some internet traffic without compromising anonymity. So the first one is about developing a digital currency. One of the key ideas of this presentation is that functional encryption helps to find the balance between privacy and information that needs to be shared. So in this, this scheme is really complex, but this is a simple approach. So on the top, we've got the real currency market. So those are banks with money, with real money. And through an exchange, this is transformed into digital coins. And once we got into this subsystem, we can both keep all the transaction anonymous. You can buy, goods and services, and you don't need to reveal any more information. But there is some traceability, meaning that you can control some of the purchases you can make with that coin. And also, in case there was some kind of problem or fraud suspicion, there could be some audits. In a much simpler way without going into the general model. For example, let's say my company Atos, they want to give us some benefits in terms of extra money we can use, but for some limited uses, for example, food vouchers, transport, or products for our babies. They can transfer the coins to us, and through functional encryption, they can modulate how this can be used only for these uses. And in case, for example, this has some implications with the tax authority, they could just leak the exact amount of information needed for the audit, but only that. They don't need the principle is only get the information when you need it and only the information you need it. All the remaining information is there, but it's kept private. The second use case is about, this is developed by Wallex, which is one of our partners. They got a Wallex OLS, which is an interface for the Amazon service, AWS. And basically, the intention is to improve the service they give the customers. And for that, they need information. But obviously, this is delicate because customers are very cautious about their privacy. So it's not as simple as asking permission to query the information. So with functional encryption, we can keep end-to-end encryption of all the data stream, but Wallex is able to query some of the information, some basic metrics, like basically arithmetic operations like means, the standard deviation, some minimum max values. So they can get information they need, and the customers keep their privacy, which is the key here. And for the third and last use case, this is quite interesting. We've got Kudelski. They are experts in security, and they've got a big market on cameras. And they want to keep end-to-end encryption of all the data stream. But what if we were able to make some decisions locally in the local gateway, and depending on the decision, we will be able to send information to the backend, or just ignore it and just keep working. So basically, what we have here is the video stream is encrypted, and we need to detect motion. And for that, they decompose they figure out the motion vectors of the image. They set a threshold, and they apply this decryption locally. And depending on this threshold, the gateway decides to send information to let's say, to an observer to decide if there's a security risk, or they just keep operating. So the idea is we can save bandwidth, and we can save storage facilities. We don't need to keep information that is pointed, so to speak. So very quickly, because it's very difficult to summarize 3 years of work in less than 10 minutes. So when it comes to functional encryption, the main issue is we want to offer a solution to the all or nothing approach of traditional encryption. Obviously, functional encryption is not just one technology, it's a family of algorithms, which it's not just one single item, is very branched. It's emerging, it's not new, it's been for over 10 years as far as I'm concerned, but it's catching up. It needs some work. Again, it's in many fields, it will not be substituting traditional encryption anytime soon, but it's catching up, and it needs to be, to move forward, it needs to be efficient, secure, and versatile. It can be applied in many areas. So one of the key points I wanted to make here is functional encryption really is able to help with this conflict between anonymity and traceability. I think there was, I think the second presentation from Paul, I think it was very clear that we need to find a balance between the protecting our interests, protecting our private information, but we need information in something like today, the COVID area. So I wanted to finalize this presentation with some kind of open questions. For example, there was back in the days some discussions about preparing a COVID passport, meaning that if you've been already infected, that you've been cured, you are not contagious anymore. So you could have this passport that could help you to, I don't know, to get to get some some work or some activities. But obviously, there are some serious privacy issues there. It was also mentioned the way it was tackled in Asia with people with these QR codes, just checking in everywhere they move. Apparently in Asia, that's acceptable. In Europe, and mainly Europe, possibly also the US, that's something that is very difficult to make people agree with it. And also a little bit like related to our use cases, obviously after this pandemic, there's also going to be a huge hit on the economy. So maybe with some kind of, systems with digital coins, we could help people at the same time, prevent fraud and make sure that all these efforts to help the economy are used correctly. Maybe if we got some time later for the wrap up, maybe we can come back to some of these questions, because I'm already about to make 15 minutes. That is my limit. So that's all I wanted to say. I invite everyone to visit the project website. Also, if you're a developer and you're interested in functional encryption, please visit the GitHub. You got plenty of resources there. Yes, thank you very much for your attention, and any questions, I'm open to it. Thank you.